Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to a Monday morning live stream. The market is down bad, guys. The market is down so bad. I have not seen a time like this since the COVID crash 5 years ago. Believe it or not, it's already been 5 years since that crash. This one is a lot different than the COVID crash, and we'll get into a lot of different details, and we'll go over the things that are happening in decentralized science so that each and every one of you guys can be up to date on what is going on with your bags, presuming that any of you guys have anything left in the market. Right now, today is a very unique day, for me at least, watching Bitcoin and the entire market sell off for the third straight day in a row dramatically, but then in the middle of the day bouncing back pretty violently. So the most accurate point out I can do for this one is the NASDAQ. So if you go look at the Qs, we gapped down really aggressively over the weekend, down 3.5%, and then fell to be down 5%. And from that, let me show you guys something, because this doesn't usually happen in the market ever. All right, this type of a move right here that we saw first thing when markets opened is not something that you see every day. All right, from the lows here, okay, let's see if we can grab it. From the lows to the high, we saw the NASDAQ move nearly 10% on an intraday move. That is an entire indice moving 10% in the matter of 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 10%. Those whoever had options on that made a field day, and it honestly made a lot of sense this morning after seeing how quickly the NASDAQ fell to be down 20-something%. Made a lot of sense to scoop up some calls if anyone was paying attention this morning and hope for some sort of a rebound. So if anyone did that, props to you guys. I know you guys don't do intraday trades like that, but still, absolutely bonkers to see that kind of movement happening. Now, you go look at something, and I want to point this out to everyone. I have a couple things to really point out. All of a sudden now, we have barely kissed the high from 2021, all right? So that is one area of contention we should be paying attention to see if the NASDAQ can find support here. We also just hit into that purple box I drew in the last live stream, which is the first area that I want to see us hold. However, if we go look at it, the NASDAQ dropped down 25%, okay? If you can zoom out for a minute and think logically with yourself, how often does the NASDAQ drop 25%? And then if you can fast forward 1, 3, 6, 12 months from then, how often is it that we are still down from that point? Aside from the Great Depression, it's not that often. It almost never happens. So being down 25%, if you're willing to buy and close your eyes for a minute, I think you're getting some of the craziest deals that we will see in years to come. Right now, in this exact moment, we are seeing some of the craziest deals that we will see as investors for potentially another decade, or at least for half a decade, right? Because last time we saw this was half a decade ago when we were in the COVID crash. That insane crash. We got some discounted stocks and cryptos like crazy. I mean, yes, here as well, but the recovery was a little bit more drawn out. This is happening so much quicker than I think anyone expected, which provides that opportunity. If you go look at Bitcoin, you can see we almost tapped the high from the last little cycle here in March of 2024. So fast forward 1 year to April 2025, and we are almost back down retesting that breakout period, which is not super fun, but it does correlate to a 35% decline. A 35% decline in the price of Bitcoin from the peak to the trough here. I don't know if this is the trough, but again, you don't see crashes like this super frequently, and so I do think it is a reasonable time to start DCAing in. I told you guys after we got rejected from the 200-day moving average that I would not be buying anything again until we saw Bitcoin come down and touch that little area. I said we would likely see what looks like to be a wick that liquidated a bunch of people, right? So everyone who went long thinking that was the bottom, they all get liquidated by that wick. And there might be one more wick to liquidate everyone who's got their stop losses down at the previous high, but for all intents and purposes, that just destroyed a lot of investors. Let's go. W's in the chat for C90. www. Thank you for the 5 gifted. Welcome in to those investors: Royal We, Lazy Jedi, Divine AI, BTD TV, and Zaj. Welcome in, guys. Welcome, welcome. I love that. I love that. I also love the name Divine AI. That's a cool name. So good morning, C90. Good morning, MK. What's good, Zaj? How's it going, Steven? Beagle? Ruralis? Welcome in to a Monday morning live stream. As you guys come into that live stream, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. I want to see you guys liking the content for me. It makes me feel appreciated, and it makes me know that I should continue to do this Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, man. How many of you guys are in panic mode right now? I want to see a show of hands. How many of you guys are panicked? How many of you guys are just like, well, this is fun. This is crazy. Honestly, when the market starts doing stuff like this, my mindset kind of shifts towards away from like, holy shit, what's going on, into, oh my God, this is so fun to watch this happen. This is crazy. It's a little bit of like, just shock, right? This is a crazy, crazy downturn. But again, if we go and we can zoom out and go look at some of the other historical downturns in the market, which I think would be a good activity to take. But let's go to the S&P, because the NASDAQ doesn't have as much data. But if you go look at the S&P and see that generally speaking, when the S&P 500 drops by this 20% area, 20 to 25%, which would make a lot of sense for us to see at 25%. So it might not be completely over, but we are entering into that territory. And we're also seeing Trump start negotiating now that his weekend golf trip is over. We're seeing him start to get back to work and start negotiating with some countries in order to kind of get the tariffs to go away. We saw Taiwan saying we'll go 0-0 tariffs. We saw some European countries come out saying we'll start negotiating 0-0 tariffs. We saw a lot of countries come to the table and be like, can you stop destroying our markets? Can we stop destroying the markets? Which is good. But if you go look historically at times in the market where we've seen a 20% drop in the price of the indices, it has historically coincided with a bit of a bottom in the market, right? Yes, we might get those areas that go a little bit further down, but if you bought during those time frames, you're not super concerned, right? If you bought when the S&P hit -20, yeah, you might still see a little bit more down, but generally speaking, you are not that concerned with your entry. I don't think we saw 20% here, but we might have. We barely, I'll give it to them. We barely saw 20% during 2018. So if you bought, you would have got the bottom wick there. If we don't go into a recession, it's a gorgeous time to buy. If we do go into a recession, you have a little bit more pain before you really come out of it. Unless it is a true and utter financial catastrophe like in '08 or the dot-com bubble, those types of activities, you get fried, absolutely fried. And it took several years to come out of that one, right? So if you think it's going to be something like this, hold your horses, because we're not out of it yet. I would not enter it yet if you think it's going to be something like this. If you think it's going to be something that we can undo by quantitative easing, lowering interest rates and removing the tariffs, and you think they'll be able to do that in time to prevent this kind of stuff, then it is a good time to buy. But if you are someone who believes this is a dot-com bubble or a '08 financial crisis, then in fact, the pain has just started, right? You go look at these, and I'm just looking at data. Right? I'm just looking at data. Then we can get into my opinion if you want to, but just looking at data, you have long periods of time in which this crash would still be on for. Unless you think it's something like these, where it's not going to last that long. Imagine how quick that happened. A lot of people are relating this to Black Monday and Black Friday. It lines up pretty perfectly, right? Just a correction, not a recession, says Beagle. W Beagle. I love that. Yeah, these prices are looking nice right now. They are looking nice. They are. None of them have necessarily reverted back to above any of the moving averages, right? We're still in that free fall. We have not found a confirmed bottom. However, the price action that happened on the NASDAQ, at least today, and almost everything in which we opened up super red, and now we're printing some green candles on these charts on the daily. Those intraday moves of plus 10% in a complete free fall show people, or at least tell me, that the market is willing to buy the dip, right? People are not in complete sell-off mode anymore. They were Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but now Monday is opening up, and it looks like people are starting to buy a little bit. So that is a good sign. It shows some life, but it does not mean that we're necessarily out of the woods yet, right? I mean, every single one of these circles, aside from the 2018 crash that we saw, there was more downturn in the market before we started bouncing. And I'm not looking at crypto right now because crypto's not lived through one of these. In 91, though, I will say, 91, if you had bought that wick, you timed the bottom perfectly. But so far, we've only found 2 times that it has been the bottom. Most of the time, you get a little bit more down action, but then if you zoom out by like 6 months, by even 3 months, we're up quite substantially. Let's go look back here to the crash that happened in the 80s. Same type of thing, 20% downturn, and you get a good buying opportunity. Now, I personally would like to see 25% for the S&P. I would like to see us do a 25%, which means we have a little bit more pain this weekend or this week, find a bottom, and then start recovering. I think that is more likely to see what ends up happening than anything, but that's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion. If they don't remove the tariffs and the Fed after today's emergency meeting, it's not an emergency meeting, it's a scheduled meeting, but if after today's Fed meeting, they come out and the next decision that the Fed makes, we don't get any cuts or any more QE-like symptoms, things that are ending QT, because remember, they're still doing QT, right? So I would like to see them say, we're all done with QT, and we're going to start talking about cutting rates next meeting. If we don't get that, and Trump does not ease up on the tariffs, then we do have a lot more downside in the market. I'm just being that guy. I hate to be that guy, but I'm just being that guy. However, like it'd end up being something more akin to this, right? Where we get a potential like 40% sell-off in the indices. However, on a technical standpoint, this would be a good time for us to get a bounce on the market. Looking at where we're at, this would be a good time here this week to get a bounce. But we need those fundamental indications as well, i.e. the Fed and the tariffs starting to they don't necessarily have to go away, but we need to see signs that they're willing to make them go away, right? So let's go look up Fed futures and see when the next meeting is. So we got 30 days, right? So we have a month potentially of this before we start to see some easing of the Fed, unless they come out after today and say something, right? That would be good. The market's already starting to violently price in a rate cut. Look at that. The market is already starting to pretty aggressively cut in or price in a rate cut. You go back a week ago, it was 86% odds that we got no rate cut in the next meeting, but now we're at 65%, which means we have a 30-60 split between the market thinking we're going to get rate cuts versus not getting rate cuts, which is a big shift. So that tells me we're probably going to end up getting the rate cuts unless the market bounces violently. So this crash is actually kind of good if you can give yourself enough time. Speaking of time, no, I'm just kidding. I won't end it yet. But hopefully that makes sense to you guys. It is crazy though. I'm really ashamed we didn't short. I'm really ashamed we didn't short, because even on the bond market today, the bonds are tanking. The bonds are tanking. Or rates are going up, which is weird, right? So bonds are tanking, rates are going up. I really did not see that one coming. I really expected this red candle that we got on the daily for TLT to be the other way, where it gapped up to like 95 and then pushed up to like 96 today is kind of what I was expecting. But in fact, we got a big sell-off. We got a big sell-off, which means rates are going up a little bit. Pump faked us right into an exit. They always do. Always do, C90. Look at Discord chat, says Don. Let's go look. We need a 5-wave move. Don says Bitcoin cycles, the banana zone. We've been in the banana zone for a minute though. I would love to see it. I really would. I really would. Let's pull this up over here. Banana zone. We've been looking at this chart circling the internet for a while. However, it's hard to see times like this, like when we're crashing violently, because this is now outdated, right? We've come down and basically tapped the previous high from over here. So now it looks even worse, but still the same type of activity happening every other cycle with Bitcoin. So a little bit of hopium for those of you who need it. price of Bitcoin at 78. Oh, we got a lot of liquidity right here. This looks outdated already, doesn't it? Unless it wicked down here. There's a giant wall down here of liquidity right at 76,000. So would not be surprised to see Bitcoin go grab that liquidity. Got lots of charts from Dylan. You also see this. This is a good one that I think people really need to pay attention to. Bitcoin and global liquidity. So since October of 23, Bitcoin has been tracking global liquidity to a T, only it's been about 3 months behind. And so 3 months ago, global liquidity bottomed. And I know you guys have seen this before, but we're going over some interesting charts. And so 3 months ago, global liquidity bottomed, and now it is sitting at all-time highs, right? So presumably in 3 months, if Bitcoin is still going to track global liquidity, we would be sitting at all-time highs again, which is a very quick reversal. Very quick reversal. This is what we've been talking about though, and this kind of activity in which Bitcoin puts in that double bottom here, but then has that one wick to grab liquidity before getting sent higher is definitely good hopium. It's definitely good hopium. Learn while you have. Man, I love it. I love it. As far as the rest of the market, we saw ETH touch down at 1400. Lovely. Sol went below 100. Holy fuck. Bitcoin is right on track to what we were expecting. TLT was a move that I was not hoping for, which means we should rethink what's going on in the market, because TLT doing that type of activity while the market is crashing is interesting. It does tell me some people are taking money out of bonds to go into the market, but that's just a very brief explanation, and I'm sure there's a lot more nuance between it. The dollar is starting to rise again, so people are just fleeing to the dollar, which is also pretty weird because this big weakening that happened in the dollar was to counteract tariffs. And now what we're seeing, the dollar getting stronger again, means that the market is then going against counteracting the tariffs. We talked about it a lot on Friday, but I mean, just look at, like, it's hard for me, but look at these discounts. You can get Nvidia, one of the top stocks in the entire market. You could have gotten it at a 43% discount from its peak. It's currently sitting at a 37% discount. WTF. Let me see from the chat. Are any of you guys buying today, or are all of you waiting patiently? Are all of you guys still sitting on the sidelines with your money, or are any of you guys buying? I am very also tempted to buy some calls here that expire in like a month in expectation or in anticipation for a bounce to go up, back up to the moving averages, right? Not saying that this pain is over necessarily, but some sort of a bounce here would make a lot of sense. So a couple days of decent news, as honestly as Trump starts to panic, realizing that he just caused a 25% sell-off in the indices, and people kind of buying the dip a little bit, it would make sense for some semblance of a bounce, maybe up to like 18.5 or something on the NASDAQ, and that would go really hard for QQQ or TQQQ. The 3x leveraged index or ETF on the Qs, right? You get a bounce upwards of $50, a 30% move. That could go hard with some options. Leverage on leverage on leverage on leverage on leverage. I'm waiting on the side till Wednesday at the earliest. Nice. I bought. Love to see it. Still got some dry powder. Love to see it. Somebody who has dry powder is very rare right now. I don't think Trump ever panics, even when his actions should make him panic. Yeah, man. That man's confidence is unheard of. That man's confidence is unheard of. I will not be pulling up any crypto charts today, though. That is not something I want to see. Not anything, of course, aside from some of the main ones, but I do not want to see any big ones. Bought 1 nickel. Let's go, Beagle. Hey, 1 nickel invested into the correct places right now. could be worth $1 by the end of the year. If we do get a bounce, if we do get a rebound, a nickel invested could be worth $1, which is a pretty insane rate of return. $5 might be $100 by the end of the year. That's what these opportunities provide. You just have to zoom out a little bit. It might go down to be worth only 2 cents in the midterm, but it might still end up being worth $1 at the end of the whole thing. Your nickel might end up being worth only a couple pennies, but then it rebounds to $1. I mean, historically, that's what it's been. Historically, the best times to possibly enter into the market has been during pure panics like this. Pure panic mode. The quicker it happens, the quicker we can rebound too. So this is much better than a drawn out crash. Like this type of a crash is more akin to the 2020 crash than the 2021 crash, right? We go to the monthly candles. Oh my God. Probably not the monthly candles, but let's go to like, actually no, we'll keep it here. This type of a crash is way more akin to the 2020 crash than the 2022 right now because of how quick it's happening, which is good. That makes me feel comfortable with it, or at least a little bit more comfortable because of how quickly we rebounded afterwards, right? So let's go get some drawing skills. We'll do a bar pattern and go ahead and grab that. Still pain. Still pain. I actually don't like that at all. I think it makes a lot of sense to see something like this, right? Where we get a sell-off and then the bleed and that crash and then rebound a little and then uncertainty. We come touch that circle we drew a couple months ago and then liquidity turns on, the markets ease up and we rocket into the end of the year for a final little blow off top before a massive recession. I do think we're getting a massive recession, but I don't think Trump is going to have that happen right now. However, he also doesn't have complete control, so maybe we do. I don't know. You don't know. Yeah, I know that nobody likes hearing that. Everyone comes to get some sort of like feed, some emotional feed off of the live streams that people do, but genuinely no one has any idea what's going on. Now, I have several things to talk about when it comes to DeSci. That's like a whole coin, VeChain, right? Exactly. You could go out and buy one Dynex, and then when it hits $100 in 10 years, when it hits $100, you turn a nickel into $100. Just go touch grass, says Don. Facts. Everyone just needs a little bit of outdoor time. A little bit of grounding. It would be nice, though. It would be nice if we go look at Bitcoin's moving average. No real reason to suspect that this is where we would find that support, but... Oh wait, no, not that one. This one. The 50-week moving average is kind of where we found that first bottom in this cycle, somewhere around it. And then the second bottom, and kind of a third bottom, but I'm just going to count this as a second bottom last year, as everything looked like it was over for crypto, and then we bounced off of it and put in that higher high, which was gorgeous. We're down testing it again. And right now, I know we just opened the weekly candle yesterday, but it is very much so finding support here. Now, you're not supposed to be able to hear that, but yes, that's how you can tell that the market is less exciting. I got a little fish tank on Facebook Marketplace. And because it's in the shot, it's a business write-off. It was only like $25. But I don't know if you guys remember the fish tank I used to have. TY, of course, BTD TV. Of course. Sounds like you're peeing, mate. Damn it. Well, you're just gonna have to get used to the subtle, tranquil sound of mictration. I am actually very curious to see if the mic is the correct one this time. Yeah. Yes, it is. It was using that microphone for like 2 weeks straight, and then I finally watched one of my live streams back and realized I needed to be on that microphone. I just really want to reiterate to you guys that these moves don't happen often. This type of activity in which we see an entire index gap down by 3%, fall to a low of almost 5% down, and then rebound up in the span of 30 minutes by 10%. That doesn't happen ever. That is super, super uncommon. I'm surprised we didn't hit a circuit breaker, to be honest. 8% on the SPX. What did Bitcoin do? Bitcoin's is about to be crazy. Bitcoin currently is less volatile than the NASDAQ. Let me say that again. Bitcoin right now, today, is less volatile than the NASDAQ. What is going on? No one has ever seen this. Not at least in recent history. I mean, from the lows, Bitcoin already bounced 5% with a peak up here. Not even 10%. That's crazy. Looking for the wrong liquidity. A tank full of kombucha. Bro's portfolio tanking so hard, he just brought the tank home. Oh my god. Exactly, though. Patrick, are you in the panicking party? No, I am not. I am not in a panic at all around this. Ultimately, there's nothing you can do. And we've hit a certain point in the correction that I feel that the worst of it is beyond us now. The worst of it's behind us, rather. So for me, I don't really ever panic when price goes down. I really don't. Because it's not something I can control, right? What I can control is making sure that I'm continuing to work and increase my knowledge and make sure that I'm actually bringing in some sort of income so that I can actually buy the dip. Those types of things are in my control. But what's in my control is not the dip. The dip is just an opportunity. And so whether I take advantage of that opportunity right now, or if I take advantage of that opportunity in a week or two, that's what's in my control, right? I can't control the dip, so I don't ever panic about the dip. But this dip is an aggressive one for sure. For sure. You guys know my mindset with a lot of this stuff. Plus, I would be in more of a panic if this is not what I thought Trump was trying to do, right? We talked about it. That's why we entered TLT. Now, I wish I had shorted the market. That would have made me feel a lot nicer if I had some money coming from the shorts that we had talked about. When the NASDAQ got rejected right here by the 200-day moving average, I really do wish that I had opened up a couple short positions, bought some puts on the market, but I didn't because it's hard for me to go short on the market. But I wish I did. That would make me feel a lot better. But we talked about this. We had an entire conversation, an entire strategy live stream about how Trump was trying to make the market go down so the Fed would cut interest rates. And then when the Fed cuts interest rates, they would start printing some money and start getting liquidity flowing in the markets, and risk on assets would go crazy. I think a lot of people agreed with that, but ignored the elephant in the room that was a big crash that had to happen. So this is what has been on the docket. Like, this is not a shock. We went back over the last couple live streams and drew these crash blocks, expecting us to come touch these, right? You just don't look at the portfolio. Just don't look at it. It's a lot easier if you don't. But we just entered the first area. So while anytime the index is in this first area, I think it's a good time to buy. And then if we go to the next one, I think it's an even better time to buy. Same with Bitcoin. Whenever we're down here touching that, I get low key, let's draw the box. Let's draw it. Where is the rectangle? this box right here. Boom to boom across. Anytime we're in this box, I think it's a gorgeous time. That circle I drew. Anytime we're down in this box, I think it's a good time to DCA. Now, I don't like the term DCA because that's not DCAing. DCAing would be buying regardless as to what we're doing. DCA is when you literally just buy. If it's up, you buy if it's down. This is more of a laddering position, more of a timed purchasing. But that's my take on it. Now, let's go through some of the stuff that's happening in DeSci so you can keep up to date on that. And then we can have some conversations and look at some other charts if you want to. Or we can just continue to be in awe. Look at the Chinese markets. The other markets globally are tanking a lot harder than we are today. But okay, so we got an update from Michael Torres, who's from VitaDAO's Vita RNA, I believe. Our lead candidate Arton102 targets the #1 age-related DNA glitch, a CGA arginine codon mutation in a premature stop codon TGA due to epigenetic C to T changes. This signal opal, the nonsense mutation, is notorious for tumor suppression like P53, halting essential protein production. In short, we repair the common age-related mutation at its source, letting cells revive proteins that keep us healthy. Okay, so I have not, he's in response to someone, but I can't see what it's in response to. I did not read any of these announcements before, or any of these posts before I tagged them. I've made an AI that scrapes X for key news for the day based off of 27 different DeSci projects, and it puts together a news report for me to talk to you guys about on the live stream. And so I haven't read any of them because I didn't have enough time to read them beforehand. But essentially what this one is saying is that VitaDAO paid money to create a biotech company that Michael Torres is one of the lead researchers for. It's Vita RNA, I believe, or it might be Vita Fast. One of those two IP tokens this is in pertaining to. It's Arton Bio is the name of the biotech company. And they've created a therapy that goes and targets a specific mutation that happens in genes. And you can see it right here. They're talking about it explicitly. So that mutation changes a C to a T, and they go back in with this drug and change the T back to a C. It's a stop codon TGA, and that means that the protein that is sitting on top of the DNA reading the transcript for how its blueprints to make this specific protein. Occasionally, there are a combination of 3 amino acids, which are the letters, right? C, G, T and A, and U, but U doesn't really get talked about much. But C, G, T, and A are those 4 amino acids, or those 4 fuck, my brain's glitching on what they're called. Those, okay, it's the blueprints to creating proteins, right? And a stop codon is 3 of those in a certain order that tells the protein that's on top reading the blueprint to stop, that the protein is done. And so when the C changes to a T, it artificially puts the stop codon into the protein sequence so that the reading protein, the transcriber, stops doing its job and just says the protein's done, and that's a mutation and it causes harm in the body. And so it's the #1 age-related DNA glitch that they've created a cure for. So that's crazy. That's crazy. And it's showing that it's working perfectly fine. So we're probably really close to getting the first drug therapy out of one of these DAOs. And that's gorgeous for the entire industry. Next up is SciDAO, some of our monthly progress. Advanced 3 new psychedelic research projects, advanced novel dissociative development, and continued Kene Cafe construction in the Amazon. So that's nice. SciDAO is really doing good. I have an interview with someone from SciDAO that I did at ETH Denver that I need to get up and out. It's just sitting in my folder on Google Drive, and I need to get it up soon. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that one. Next up is Axon. Axon isn't just a token AI. It's a tool for decentralizing research. By earning and holding Axon, you're playing an active role in scientific discovery. Earn AXGT by contributing privacy first health data. Get 50% of your Cure Ring cost back by wearing it daily for 4 months. Use AXGT to vote on funding decisions for independent research projects. Oh, they got 999 views. They also got 61 likes, which is 10 times the amount of likes we have on this live stream. So I would really love if you guys would hit that thumbs up button and like the live stream. DeSci is powered by the people, not institutions. Join the Axon community. All right, next up is Origin Trail. Bioprotocol reposted Origin Trail's post of Bioprotocol's post pertaining to the hackathon. We've already talked plenty about that. And BioDAO, same with the hackathon. Okay, so it seems that the AI that does the scraping needs to get a little bit better. Molecule reposted this from Brian saying, proud to have Cerebrum DAO take the lead in shepherding this project forward. I want to see, though, the other stuff. So maybe that's not great yet, because it is a repost. There we go. Transfidelity contract that was signed this week. Cool. All right. And this is the last one. DeFi was born during the 2020 COVID market crash. Despite the first protocols having launched as early as 2016, DeSci will be born during the 2025 market crash as sweeping budget cuts affect thousands of scientists. Now is the time to build. Fundamentals have never been better. W. Paul. W. Paul. It does not get any more cut and dry than that. You can't control the market. All you can control are your actions. Build, build, bill. Build, build, bill. Yes. An intentional Freudian slip. Continue to develop, continue to expand, continue to push harder. That's all you can do right now. What's Bill up to? 4 nucleotide bases for DNA strand. Yeah, so we can talk about that for sure. It's in the hands of the Fed, exactly. Bill right now has just been me working as hard as I can to create tools for him to use. A lot of it has come down to, and we can get into it in depth if you want to, but I'm building out all these tools to give to his framework to be able to use, right? And so there's kind of 2 things I'm working on right now. One are these tools, and the other is his ability to return answers at a higher correct threshold. Does that make sense? It's like you ask him what's going on in DeSci, and he tells you these things that some of them are true and some of them are not. And so I'm trying to get it so that he recalls information at 100% clip, or at least like 95. Whereas right now, a lot of the times he gives you generic answers, or he will give you information that is from a couple days ago when I want up-to-date information. So that's one of the things I'm working on for him right now. The other thing are these tools, i.e. that newsletter I told you guys about that I made for myself to use. I'll give it to him so he stays up to date on everything as well that's happening, right? Another thing would be kind of a coin lookup, right? So anyone who's got a new contract address from a new launch, you can, it's prototyped right now. It's not out yet because I'm still working on connecting it with the correct frameworks and everything. But I made a tool that you just give him the contract address and he just searches Dex Screener for all the information. He gives you everything he can find about it, right? It's kind of like a deep research skill because it's impossible for him to keep up to date on everything in DeSci without scraping the entire internet. And so by giving him stuff like this, so you can kind of make up for it a little bit and make it easier for him to do stuff and be up to date on what it is that you want him to be up to date on. But again, it's not out yet, obviously, because I'm still fine-tuning a lot of that stuff. Now, what was said also, the 4 nucleotide bases for DNA. Yeah. I know we went over a bunch of stuff, but yeah. 4 nucleotide bases in DNA. A, T, C, and G. So C and G are matched up together, and A and T are matched up together, right? And sometimes a mutation, you accidentally, in this case, get a T instead of a C at that mutation. And you look at a stop codon, I believe it is an exact 3 of those aminos in a row, right? Yeah, stop codons are these, UAAA, UAG, and UGA, right? And so you get that stop codon accidentally, and it tells the protein in the body that's reading that DNA to stop making the new protein. and it's complete, right? It's so that it doesn't just read the DNA forever. And apparently that mutation that Art and Bio is trying to stop has to do with those stop mutations. A C going to a T, the stop codon TGA. And so it artificially puts it in, tells the protein that it's done with the mapping, and then it stops, and then you get a malfunctioned protein, and then your body dies. Ugh. I'm so stiff right now. No, I was just kidding. It was just me playing around a little. Somebody just stopped in our driveway. Sus. Okay, let's see. What do you guys have for things you want to look at? Because that's kind of all I have right now. I did use ChatGPT to try and find historical price performances of post-market crashes, i.e. what historically has happened to the indices after we see a 20% drawdown, and it didn't really give me the type of information I was looking for. It gave me some stuff, but not as much as I needed. The person came up and put something on our door and walked away. It's probably a notice because we haven't cut the grass yet this year. Which is kind of funny, but... yeah. That's it, baby. That's it. DeSci is currently down 12% on the day. And everything is looking terrible. SBio's up, but it's super illiquid. Gridcoin, we've never seen before. CTI up a little bit. Brainworms, Riff's up. Factorn's up. And that's it. Where you see ETH bottom? That's a good question. That is a good question. Damn. I mean, I have no idea, dude. I never expected to see ETH down at these prices again. Never did I ever expect to see ETH down here. Well, let's start at the bottom. Could ETH come down to $900 again? I mean, everything's on the table right now. So, right there maybe? I know you don't want to see that, but then I would put it probably somewhere around here. 1200. I'm not taking into account the current price action. Put it right here. That's key area, but it fell through that key area, which means down here, maybe where it's currently at, but I don't think this is the exact bottom. I would be hard pressed to tell you guys this is the bottom, which means I could see ETH going down to like 1300. It is the top from last cycle again. Think about that for a second. We just hit the top from last cycle. So you could have bought it. You could have purchased ETH 2,639 days ago. Not last cycle, but 2 cycles ago. You could have purchased ETH 2,600 days ago. Think about how nuts that is. Think about that. Crazy. $900 ETH. I know. Nobody wants to see it, but that was the last bottom. Right? Let's see what some Fibonacci's say. I see a lot of people using the Elliott stuff, so we could do Elliott, but I know. We haven't seen pain yet, if that's the case. Bear with me. I have not used the fib retracement tools in quite some time. Go down to 0. Look at, I mean, it's just sliced through everything, guys. It has literally just sliced through it all. Like this most recent one that it's trying to bounce at right now is the lowest fib retracement line that there is. The most recent one that we're at right now, if it was to find a bottom, it would have to be there. Otherwise, we have some more pain to go through. I don't actually even know how to use the Elliott waves, so maybe we can try during this. Nice. And then we'll go higher. There you go. Show moon phases for hopium. Okay, we can do that. Okay, God damn it. I mean, it just hit. We just got the new full moon. So, I guess basically this is the bottom. Nope, not yet. Not yet. We still have all of this week for pain. Sol dipped under 100 over the weekend. I know, Steven, I saw that. I saw that. That is absurdity. Absurdity. But as far as the moon phases are concerned, it is not, like, even with these bounces that have been happening, which is funny to see that they still do it. A 20% bounce on ETH, the moon phase, and then we saw a 12% bounce on ETH, and then we got the moon phase, and then we saw a 19% bounce on ETH. But each one has been followed by an even more aggressive sell-off right as the new moon comes. So new moon came in, we sold off pretty violently, and we still have days left before the next moon. I'm getting a bunch of phone calls right now. April 12th. So we have 5 days left. So there's your hopium, guys. Can you hold out for 5 more days? So that would be Tuesday. Next Tuesday. So it's way more than 5 days, I guess. So Saturday. Oh, I was reading it wrong. I don't know how I was reading it so wrong, but according to the moon chart, Saturday is the bottom. Or somewhere around there. So that could have been it, and then we rise into it a little bit. Who knows, man? Who knows? It would correspond pretty nicely, actually. You go look at each of them. While the bounces have not been holding at all, each one has corresponded to a little bit of an increase. Except for this one. But right here, we get the next one on the 12th, on Saturday. So this week is still pain, basically, is what it's saying. All right, guys. It is funny, though. It is funny. It just still continues to line up. It's all fun and games. It's all just haha until you actually see it in action and how accurate it is. It looks like it, dude. Steven, right now everything's dead. Right now, everything. Which is super shitty. Sora especially, because I put so much into it, thinking it was going to be such a killer, and then it just absolutely died. It absolutely died. I don't even want to look at it, because last time I looked at it, it was down like 90%, which means now it's probably down like 99%, because I bet it dropped another 90% after it went down 90%. So 99% on that one. Oh, man. Hopefully we get that final leg. If we don't get that final leg, this was the stupidest cycle I've ever seen in my entire life. Your time is your most valuable asset. Hopefully this was worth investing it into. I appreciate you guys being here with me, and I hope that you guys remain calm continue to build, continue to evolve, and I will see you guys in the chats.